Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we conclude the House of Bloodstein, Mentralysis, Part 3, Chapter 11, The Tower of 100 Spires. So we're pretty much just in cleanup mode at this point. Queen Ghome has been converted into Rothabah of George. Sam is back, everybody's back. The whole affair seems to be at an end. There's just a few loose ends to tie up, things that have legs into other books, and then we will be done. If you recall, this book initially was one book. The previous book and this one were just one, and it was a NaNoWriMo project, which is appropriate as it is NaNoWriMo month. And as I've said before, I'm not a big fan of NaNoWriMo just because of its insistence on word count. You could just regurgitate a bunch of words on a page and you turn it in and you get credit for that. It's anybody, that's easy to do. It can really mess you up if that's not how you write. If word count isn't your goal, sometimes you just write a few words. I myself sometimes just write a couple words. As long as I get a thought in that I was hoping to accomplish, then that's a good day. And then sometimes I write a lot of words. It just depends. But if you're forced to just spit out a bunch of words, bad things can happen. You can get blocked. You can start to question your own modus operandi. All that. But let's begin here. Kind of bittersweet for me as we get to the end of this book. We will be done. Part 3, Chapter 11, The Tower of 100 Spires. Kay honestly had no idea what to do with Clara Wonderluck. Vith law gave the local lord great powers when dealing with criminals and other assorted lawbreakers. With his parents still out of the league, and given the old laws, he could essentially do with her what he wished. He could have her hauled off and executed on the old Blockman stump near the bay. He could have her beaten out of the village into exile and certain death in the mountains. Or he could hand her over to the sisters. An old Maserfeld classic was known as the Jackanar, to launch a criminal into space from the old rail tube without the benefit of a suit or oxygen and allow them to expire. Or he could simply hold Clara without trial forever. The problem with Kay was that he was no tyrant or executioner. He couldn't simply have people killed or jackanar'd into space like his great-grandfather once did. And he couldn't simply make people disappear in the night or have them sent off to the sisters. From what Philip had told him, despite her treachery, Clara had shown great skill and level-headedness and had contributed to their safe passage through the Gellertron at Castle Bloodstein. Kay admired those things and found them worthy. His plan was simply to keep Clara in Kai's jail until Captain Davidge and Countess Sigillis returned to the League from distant Ing. At that time, he could brief them on what had happened, and they could decide on what to do with her. The problem with Clara, she was a sly little fox. With plenty of time on her hands, Clara did some research from her jail cell and discovered an old proviso in Vith law that compelled the local lord to immediately respond to a longhand letter marked urgent. Clara pummeled Kay with letters. She sent them all day long. She sent them while Kay was taking his meals, while he was having a soak in the bathhouse. They came in the middle of the night while he was sleeping, and sometimes while he was making love to Sam. Once, Clara sent Kay 60 letters in one day. Running out of paper, she soldiered on and sent them on napkins, towels, scraps of clothing, toilet tissue, anything she could write on. In all cases, Kay was compelled by law to stop what he was doing and respond to her letters immediately. Her letters varied wildly in tone, some making threats and issuing outlandish demands regarding her care and release. She demanded entertainments, authentic Remnath foods, and scheduled furloughs from the jail cell, including visits to her home in Remnath. In one letter, she demanded a conjugal visit and had further demanded that Kay himself or Philip or both of them at once perform the servicing. Some letters were more tentative in nature, seeking to open some sort of dialogue between their two great houses. She bemoaned her fate In others, she resorted to out-and-out harlotry to entice Kay to free her. If Sam had seen those, she would have marched down to the jail and throttled Clara to death. Sometimes, Kay had a mind to allow her to do just that. In all letters, though, Clara maintained a fair amount of wit and charm, and Kay sometimes found himself laughing out loud as he read them. He found himself, at least in a small way, enjoying the handwritten joust. As he had with Leica, Kay found he admired Clara's spirit. Still, from his own recollections and from what Philip and Thomasina had told him, Clara Wonderluck could not be trusted. She was a relentless opportunist, an anarchist, a thief, a casual murderer, and a liar supreme who wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. And worst of all, she knew they had the machine and was obsessed to get her hands on it. The best place for her was behind bars in Blanchford Village until his father and mother returned to the League. Then they could determine what to do with her. The professor, though, came up with a solution to the relentless letter writing. If the letters are an issue, you can simply change the law. Do you not know your own laws? Use of arbitrary powers was a highlight of your great-grandfather's rule. Shall I show you the statutes? The text is fairly clear, he chided. The next day, Kay made a proclamation, and the letters from Clara stopped. For now, she was silenced. Kay and Sam found Sarah in the mystery library. She had been laboring for days, getting it back into order, the two of them helping her however they could. She had books and papers spread all over the Durst table, meticulously putting them back exactly where they had gone before the Jones attack. King sat on the table. He was busy separating a bowl of red and blue colored grains of sand into two individual bowls, one grain at a time. "Wow, Sarah, you've done some work here, haven't you?" Kay said, admiring what she had accomplished so far. "Thanks. I've still got a long ways to go." She fussed about. "Grab a seat and keep me company while I work. Don't touch anything. I've got a system going. Sam, I'm going to need you to help me lift some stuff soon. Is that okay?" Sam seated herself. "Certainly, Sarah." "Great." Kay smiled. It was so good being home with the people he loved. "Hey, I've got something here for you, Sarah," Kay said, holding out a stack of leather-bound books. "These just came in today." Sarah stopped what she was doing. "What are these?" "A present from your friend, Lord Rawl of Niles," he responded. Sarah rolled her eyes. "Oh, not him again. Creation, he must have gotten his thrills peeking at my blank naked body or something while I was in the bag on HOBM. How many times am I supposed to tell this guy to get lost?" "Don't know." "Have you ever considered, Sarah, that deep down you might fancy Lord Rawl after all?" Kay said. "No. Why would I?" "Just a thought." Kay pushed the books across the table towards Sarah. "Might as well have a look." Sarah looked them over. They were tales of ghost stories and mysterious happenings on HOBM, subject matter Sarah loved. She seated herself and opened them, fascinated. "Well, maybe he's not so bad," she said, flipping through the pages. "Maybe I'll invite him to the Firth House sometime and say thanks for these. As soon as I read them, I'll get them shelved." As she looked through the books, King finished his tedious work with the sand. All the red grains were in one bowl and all the blue grains in the other. He fluttered towards the exit. "Hey, where are you going?" Sarah asked as she mixed the grains of sand back together again in a common bowl, undoing all he had done. "Get your butt back over here. You're not finished yet. These grains still aren't separated. Get back to work." Silently, King returned to his spot on the table and began separating the grains of sand again. "Why are you making him perform this pointless work?" Kay asked. "Because I'm afraid he's going to kill himself. I'm trying to keep him busy." King patiently moved the grains of sand around with his beak, saying nothing. "Kill himself?" Kay asked. He turned to King. "King, is this true?" They all looked away and King spoke. "It is my creator's wish," he said. "My mother," Sarah yelled, "snuck some sort of suicidal programming into King's brain. Probably because I kept hiding them and Mother didn't like that. Once all his tasks are complete, the death programming will kick in and he'll fly out to the servants' graveyard in the grove, thereby destroying himself. King, Sam said, there's no need for you to do such a thing. Do you want to destroy yourself? King methodically worked the sand. My wants are irrelevant. I hear my creator's call, and I must obey. Kay laughed. Well then, King, who says your tasks have to come to an end? Forget this sand business. Your task is to protect this castle and all those within. That task is ongoing. We need you here with us. King responded, bits of sand clinging to his beak. My life force is derived from yours, from all present during my summoning. I would not rob you of your life to sustain my own. If you need a small bit of our lives to exist, then it is well given, Kay said. Protect us from evil, King. That is your task. Are you up to it? King blinked. Evil is a concept. There is no being rid of evil, as it is a byproduct of good. Then I guess you'll be busy with all this evil floating about, Kay said. Sarah was elated. Good one, Kay. She collected the bowls and threw the sand into the bin. You're not going anywhere, right, King? She asked. King fluttered up to his favorite perch and fluffed his feathers. Apparently not. The bulk of the items stolen from Castle Blanchford came back slowly over the next few weeks, hauled in through the Gellertron at Gallia Palace, now patrolled by a company of Rawls Hospitallers. They made many expeditions to Ghome's bastion at Adamathrombo, slowly going through and reclaiming the taken items. The Gellertron at Castle Bloodstein appeared to be dead, deactivated by Philip, Thomasina, and King, and with that, Castle Bloodstein fell in upon itself and collapsed. The last remnant of the Bloodsteins on Cana was a snow-covered pile of blackened stones, haunted by faceless ghosts with metal hands lurking in the woods. The great bower chest was gone. They saw no trace of it soaring in the skies of Adamathrombo. Kay was certain it was near Rothiba on HOBM, much smaller, having passed through the Gellertron at Gallia Palace. One evening, he was certain he had seen it sitting out in the moonlight near Rothiba's chambers. They managed to reclaim most of everything taken, including the machine and the Malice mirror. After all that had happened, they were keen to take the machine apart and melt down the components. It was too potent and too tempting to keep intact. Who would be coming for it next? The problem was the machine refused to be taken apart. They had had issues with the machine in the past where the internal joints and linkages proved devilishly difficult to take apart. But now, it seemed impossible. Even the professor wasn't much help. Destroying it also seemed fruitless. They tried melting it, blasting it, hammering it. Nothing. The machine truly seemed invincible. So what to do with it? Queen Ghome and the Wonderlux had proven that there were many who would risk extinction itself to possess it. The Wonderlux were all but gone, with the exception of a few hangers-on in Remnath, and Clara Wonderluck returned to her cell in Blanchford Village, her trial indefinitely pending. They decided their only course of action was to hide the machine and stand guard over it in perpetuity as sentinels. Leaving it on the surface in the grove was out of the question. It had to be hidden somewhere deep. Philip proposed hiding it in one of the many caverns under the castle, which seemed like a good idea, but the caverns were far from impregnable. There were many ways in and out, and it was impossible to seal or guard them all. They were certain that people would come looking for the machine. The rumor mills across Cana were turning, and tales were already being spun in the various social circles of the League. Kay's sister, Lady Kylos, had calmed up from her Endurocon ball, quite concerned. She had heard that something weird had occurred at Blanchford. She had assured her friends at the ball that nothing had happened, but she was keen to know for herself. Kay told her, and she was horrified. Certainly there would be the casual curious. Certainly the sisters would come, drinking tea, asking questions, staring them for information. The machine had to be in an unreachable, unseeable, unstarable place. The caverns were out. Sarah wanted to put the machine out on Dead Hill in the vaults of the dead. She reasoned the spirits of their Blanchford ancestors would both scare off interlopers and help defend it. The issue was the spirits of the dead might try to use the machine for their own ends. Dead Hill was out as well. They needed a place that was out of the open, that had only one way in and out, and that was perfectly hidden. The optimal place would be someplace that existed in Castle Blanchford, but was not in Castle Blanchford at the same time, in case the sisters came and made a thorough search, which was sure to happen soon. Then Kay had an idea. He recalled passing through the Mystery Library and discovering the extra-dimensional node connecting all of the various places associated with Carahill. There was Carahill's wondrous store, where they had taken refuge after the Jones attack. A subsequent highly anticipated trip with Sam and Sarah to show them the store ended in failure. A close sign and a gate barred their entry. Sarah was hair-pullingly disappointed. There was also the dark cathedral bone and wire where King had simmered in frustration, and which Kay had avoided. The final node was a little patch of ground by an unknown sea under a cheery sky. Carahill's porch, as King had called it. Searching it, the porch proved to be a tiny pocket node of reality with only one entrance and was uninhabited. It seemed a perfect place to hide the machine. They hauled in the machine. Lady Poe, back from the south, created a giant Silvertech fortress by the sea with 100 towers, and whisper-locked the entire place with 1,000,000 whispers floating about, powered by a grand autopilot to sustain them. In each tower, she created a perfect Silvertech facsimile of the machine and guarded it with a bark sentinel dog. If an invader wished to take the machine, they would first have to penetrate the Mystery Library, find their way into the correct node, get past the 1,000,000 whispers, and locate the correct machine in one of 100 towers while being observed the entire time by the barks. There they left it, hidden in its tower overlooking the sea and Carahill's porch. The machine seemed to favor its new home. "Hello, Carahill," Kay said. "We wanted to come out and have a word with you." Leafy sunshine filtered to the cobbles of the grove. Sam was there with him, wearing a pretty blue dress. She seated herself on the wall as Kay spoke. Her belly stuck out just a tiny bit. She placed her hand on it. Kay stood before the great statue of Carahill in the Grayson courtyard. Carahill's Walk, as it was known. The statue was placed at the western side of the courtyard, set up in a landscape nook, complete with a pedestal and a number of accent lights illuminating the statue from below. The statue had been donated by the House of Xandar to mark the place where the benevolent cosmic spirit Carahill had been born. Members of the Xandar 44 often made pilgrimage to this spot to pray and curry his favor. Kay continued, looking up into Carahill's peaceful face. "So I had the opportunity to meet your daughter, Atha, recently. She's very pretty. She looks a lot like her grandmother, Lady Poe. I wonder why she wears those goggles all the time. I'm certain, with her face uncovered, she would be a rare beauty." He paused. An arrangement was made with Atha during this whole Queen Ghome affair. She never specified what she wanted, but I believe I know what it is. She wants to use the machine, to do with it what she will. We have hidden the machine with the intent of it not being used any further by us or anybody else. The temptation is simply too great. I need to make it perfectly plain that Atha came through on her end of the bargain. She did everything she promised she would, and more. Many people might be dead today were it not for her help. Where my concern lies is that Atha is not you, Carahill. You give of yourself without hesitation, and I see much of you in your daughter. Were you to use the machine, I have no doubt you would do so responsibly. However, I do not know what Atha would do. Per our agreement, when Sam and I finish our jar, then Atha will come to collect, and I expect she will want to be given access to the machine. I do not know Atha. She has much of your light, but there is also a little bit of darkness in her that I cannot fathom, and that gives me pause. So I suppose what I'm saying... What Kay is trying to say, Carahill, is that we are pregnant, Sam said, jumping in. New life grows in my belly. Our jar is but a few cosmetic touches away from being complete. Yes, and we beseech your wisdom, Kay said. If you believe that your daughter Atha is trustworthy and will use the machine responsibly, as you would, then we will take her to it and disarm the defenses we have put in place. I don't mean to be a snitch or a tattletale and inform you of things said in private, but this is a matter of grave importance, and thus we have come to you, essentially to tattle on Atha. The silent statue of Carahill smiled down on Kay from its landscaped nook. Do you think he heard us? Sam asked after a minute or two. Of course he did. Sam rustled. I hope he gives us some sort of answer soon. Will you take me back to our tower, Kay? I'm feeling rather tired. How many children do you think are in there? Kay asked. Maybe 10 or 12? Hard to say. Kay turned to help Sam and stroll back up with her to the castle. He immediately fell face first into the cobbles, landing on his hands. His boots had been laced together with a festive silver ribbon. Sam shot up to help him, first checking her own feet to see if they had been laced together as well. Carahill was a known jokester. Fortunately, Sam's feet were ribbon-free. As Sam helped untangle Kay, she noticed a small note attached to the ribbon. It read, Finish your jar without worry. I'll have a talk with my daughter. I am very proud of her, yet she is her own person. Teach her children well. You will see us often. C. Kay and Sam returned to the castle. They had their jar to finish, and their children to prepare for. And with that, we conclude the House of Bloodstein Mentralysis, and we conclude the entire Bloodstein series. 2 books, standalone, dealing with the further adventures of the House of Blanchford. All the loose ends are tied up. I usually have a lot of threads going on, but I'm pretty good at getting them all taken care of in the end. A couple of things begun in this book stretch off into the further books I'm working on, one called The Woman Behind the Wall, which deals with Sebastian, which is Kai's son, and it also deals with Lady Millicent, or Millie. That's Sarah's and Philip's younger sister, who's just an infant in this book, but she's there in that one. It also deals with the children of Kay and Sam. There's quite a few of them, and it's sort of a Lady and the Tramp sort of thing, because the girls all look like monomas, like Sam, and all the boys look like elders, like Kay. And The Woman Behind the Wall deals with their children, Sebastian, Millie, and it also deals with the indebtedness that Kay put himself to with Wilhela Corman Grand, the deal he made with her to give her 3 years of his life. And we will deal with that in The Woman Behind the Wall. I'm maybe about a little over a quarter of the way done, getting towards halfway, I guess. I'm in the Nixon zone, as I call it, where I'm just sort of trying a number of ideas and concepts, seeing what sticks, what I like, what I don't like. Eventually I remove a lot of the extraneous stuff and then flesh down to the actual story. But at the moment it's got a lot of crap in it that will probably not make it to the final page, but who knows. So for my next reading, and I guess I've gotten addicted to listening to myself talk, I wondered which I do next. I don't want to do all my books. I've got 14 of them, but I need to make some money. God knows I'm not making it on the YouTube, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm not complaining. But I think I'm going to do the Belmont Saga next. And that's that's books 6 and 7. 2 books, just like this one. The first book is called Sands of the Solar Empire. The second book is called Against the Druries. And this one deals with Paymaster Stenstrom. It deals with his origins, and it deals with the Seeker Affair, which gets mentioned a lot in the Cat book. It actually deals with that. And then Sands of the Solar Empire is kind of a different book in the way it's structured, where I give Paymaster Stenstrom a lot of secrets and then take them all away at some point. And then the next book, Against the Druries, finishes up the story. When I first we first published this, my publisher made me split the book down the middle because it was over 200,000 words, and he started to get nervous whenever you broke the 100,000 word mark. So I had to chop it down the middle, but I didn't really write the book to be split down the middle. I mean, it has a natural break, but it ends basically in a freaking cliffhanger, and I hate those. And some people, and I had to manufacture an ending, just to end the first book so we can pick up in the second. Some people didn't care. Some people didn't notice. Some people hated that and called me out in my critiques for that book. It just depends on who it was, but I felt a lot better once Against Juries finally got published. And then with the Belmont saga, I packaged it into one big book that I like a lot. I'm very proud of that book. It's got a lot of original artwork in it from Carol Phillips, as you experienced a few weeks ago, and many other artists from around the world. So I think I'm going to take a week or two off. I might do another movie review. My movie reviews get a lot more traction than my readings do, and I hope that changes someday, but I guess I need to spit out a few more movie reviews just to keep my hands up at it. But then we will get to the Belmont saga, and the first book in that, as I said, is Sands of the Solar Empire. So we will get to that in a few weeks. In the meantime, hope everyone stays safe. This is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.